Did Robinhood just change the investment game again?
And should you even touch this?
Yeah, so let's dive in and find out.
All right, welcome back to Buy Your Kids a House podcast. Again, I'm Andrew Higgins. This is Matt Garlock.
Hey.
And today we're doing a chapter deep dive, but we're doing it a little bit different because Robinhood just came out with an RVI.
Yeah, and with that, people were asking what the heck is RVI? So Robinhood Ventures Fund I. Basically, it's now a fund that's going to be allowing people to invest into private companies, whereas before you had to be an accredited investor to do that. We're going to kind of go over what the difference is between a retail and accredited investor. But basically, it's going to give the opportunity for the masses to invest in private companies, not just public companies. And that could really have really large impacts on what we want to invest in. And is this something we really want to do or something we steer clear from? But either which way, I think it's going to be really interesting to check into.
Yeah, stay tuned for the episode to find out more.
Yeah. So I think first we're going to kind of dive into a little bit of what this initial fund is actually looking to invest in. Now, keep in mind, these are private companies. These are companies that are not public yet. Not sure if they're even going to go public and everything, but right now, private companies, and they're using in this initial fund companies like Databricks, which is one of the ones that main forefront for AI, Stripe, which is another one that's used for a lot of payment terminal systems, Revolut, which is also for like payroll systems, Aura, which a lot of people have those Aura rings, the ones with fitness rings that help do your tracking of all your biometrics and everything. Boom Supersonic, which is a company that's building one of the fastest commercial jets and everything out there to bring back that faster than sound travel and everything go out there. So these are companies, not little fly by nights, not brand new startups. These are companies that have been around for a little bit and everything. Mm-hmm. So they definitely have already a lot of financial backing. They're already very profitable, very large companies, but they're not public yet. So there's a chance of definitely a huge upside with that.
Yeah, and it feels like it's really the next access to the IPO wave.
Yeah. So again, when people hear IPO and everything, it's initial public offerings. It's like, okay, that's when a company's first going public, and you're basically getting in before that level and everything. So you have the chance to have that big boom or bust moment, depending on how you feel from that. Now, granted, it's one fund that's going to be in several of these companies, but you're going to have access to those, to invest in those, and have that potential big upswing before it actually becomes an individually public offered company with that. So that's where the allure this can come from, of getting in on the ground floor before it gets too big, too fast and everything. So.
No, exactly. And this is a relatively new thing Robinhood's doing. It's, you haven't really heard of this happening before until now, at least on this level.
Yeah. No, again, this is something that's been basically kept for, accredited investors. We're going to kind of go into what accredited versus retail and why that's a big impact and everything with this. But, again, this is something that's kind of had the paywall of being an accredited investor, which the majority of people investing out there are not accredited investors because basically it's for the wealthy, the uber rich and everything. Yeah. This is now going to give the opportunity to go behind the curtain and have the opportunity to those big boom companies and everything that might be able to be some big reward returns, everything with that. And so now I think we're going to kind of go into what that means of being an accredited investor versus a retail investor and why this is important.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a game changer.
Yeah, let's dive in. So I know a lot of people here might be asking, I just mentioned accredited investor versus a retail investor, and I'm wondering, what the heck is the difference of that, and why does it matter to me? Well, basically up till now, being an accredited investor, you had to have an income of at least $200,000 a year, or if you're married, $300,000 a year for at least the last 2 years, or you had to have over $1 million in assets, not including your primary home, because we can't just say because your home value jumped up, that means you're now a millionaire. And then even a lot of times on top of that, they also set other boundary limits of you had to have at least $50,000 to invest, $100,000 to invest or more. So basically, be an accredited investor kept it basically only the wealthiest 1% basically to have access to this in the first place. Whereas being a retail investor is everyone that doesn't meet that criteria, which is the majority of us.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of us are in that for sure. And it's not necessarily permission, it's the capital in it.
Yeah, so again, is it important to have that before you have the investment? Are we keeping the big opportunities behind the paywall and everything? Like a lot of times you run into these barriers, and is there opportunity that will help you gain assets faster and everything? I think a lot of us think that might be the case, and that this is now creating an opportunity for the average person to finally have access to that. But now again, with great risk comes great reward, but also comes like I mentioned, the great risk. So I think we're going to kind of go into what the potential upside, but also what those risks and everything might be, because again, we don't want to go in just thinking this is something we're going to dump all our money into. We're going to get rich fast, because that, I don't think, is the answer to that yet.
Yeah, going into something blindly like this is not ever the good choice. When you're talking about investments and putting this amount of money into something, or being able to look at these accounts that previously you had to have all those assets to, and now we have easier access, you definitely want to do your research first.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and cover that and see, is this really a big game changer, or is it something that too risky to do? So
all right.
So I think now we're going to kind of dive in a little bit of both the potential risks and the rewards and everything from this potential fund and what this could mean for the average investor and everything. So first off, we'll talk about the fun stuff, the upside. So again, you're getting in access before the IPO, so it's a super ground level and everything. It's giving access to companies that people didn't normally get access to. And then if you're looking at the company, if you think one of these companies like a Databricks or Stripe is about to explode, you're getting on that level before it takes off. Plus, it's already a diversified fund. So instead of just picking one company and go up, you're getting access in that fund to, at least, a dozen or so companies. It looks like their initial one. There might be other ones when the final prospectus comes out. But when you're looking through that, if you even think one of those is going to skyrocket, it could really just take off the whole fund and everything with it. Because again, that's where the idea of when people before were going for IPOs, and now, the pre-IPO and everything is your ideas. You're thinking that the company's undervalued now and it's just going to skyrocket from that point. A lot of times people think of that when you go back to the old tech boom days and everything, when, we all remember, us older people remember Yahoo from the late 90s, early 2000s and everything. You have, when Google first went public, Microsoft, when these, companies first went public, you got on the IPO and boom, it just shot up because it was undervalued. And that's what the idea is. You're thinking that maybe these companies are undervalued and you're getting in there before it really takes off. And that's where you can have really the big rewards and everything with that. So
right, no, and it can skyrocket, like you said. If you're able to get in at that base of a level and see before it even goes public, then be able to see the increase is huge. Like, your gains could be astronomical. Now, that being said, you can get all of these things, you can believe in the company, but what happens when that company just crashes? Because that is also a very real thing, because typically these companies are only going public after a certain level of success.
Yeah.
They've already proven, like, hey, we're on the uptick. We're projecting to continue this uptick. But when you're getting in on such a base level, your high risk, high reward could also be nothing.
Yeah. No, and that's definitely, again, the biggest risk to this aspect. The majority of companies fold. Majority of companies go under. There's a reason why before this was behind the accredited paywall, was because the idea, the thought was, if you had $1 million in assets and you put 50 or 100,000 into this, you're only talking 5 or 10% of your overall income of what you have liquid to invest and everything. So if that 5 or 10% went under, then you still had 90% of your income, and you weren't quite shut down in your potential of what your investment growth and everything come from. Because it's basically the fear is that a lot of times people might put all their eggs in one basket. And we've said many times, don't do that. The whole point of this is not to put all your eggs in one basket. With that definitely comes the potential that this could all come crashing down, because with high risk comes high reward. Again, you may yell at me for being an old fuddy-duddy and why only the blue chip companies and things have been around for a while. But I like a good steady track record. I like companies that have been around for decades and longer. Better part of a century. I want companies that I don't feel that overnight is going to be one mistake away from shutting down. And that's where, again, the definite major risk with this comes into play, because AI is very new. We don't know what company is going to come out of the dust from this, of who's going to be the winner of the AI battle in this.
Right?
Could it be Databricks? Absolutely. Could it be a company we've never even heard of? It doesn't even exist today. Absolutely. Stripe. There's a lot of potential competitors out there in the pay system of having where you're doing your pay through Square and other apps and everything. So there's lots of payroll companies out there. Boom Aerospace and everything going out there with the supersonic and everything. We all remember the Concorde jet in the 90s that failed. Again, these companies have come out there and they failed miserably before. Could this all happen here? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, that's where the risk reward comes in and everything, because again, Databricks could be the next Yahoo and could really launch up, and that could be your retirement right there. but it also could be gone tomorrow, and people, we'll talk about in a few years, and it'd be like, Databricks, what?
Yeah, no, exactly. And like we've talked about in previous episodes as well, this is kind of a gamble, like we both believe crypto is, because as we have seen, and if you haven't watched it yet, watch our previous episode on this because of our investments. We have seen recently a huge dip in crypto.
Yeah.
And that was a huge gamble. That's why you and I both say, don't put all of your funds into crypto. Put it into something that is going to be tried and true, stand the test of time, slow raise, start slowly building it. You don't need that quick money overall when we're talking about investments. And so this is kind of the same thing where you're gambling on this company that typically they'll have like some information out about them, but they're not popular enough to have like the data and the time to be able to build the data to prove that they're going to last. You're going in it blindly, if you will.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some information, but you never know. You just never know about it.
I mean, again, like AI is probably one of the biggest heartbreaks of that, because again, you're having the idea that AI has only been around for a couple of years now. Yes, it maybe took a few years to develop before they even went and launched the company, but are we talking a company that's only been around for 10 years at most, possibly?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly less than that between development. Do I want to put all my money in a company that has that small of a lifespan? I would hesitate to do that at the moment. So I think now we're going to kind of go over because of the risk and reward, where does it actually fit into our investment strategy and everything? Which again, as you mentioned, we've covered in the previous episodes, where we're tracking the investments, we're seeing how things are going. Crypto definitely took a big nosedive this past month. Will this have that same potential and everything? We'll see on that, but let's see where it kind of fits into, and where I think maybe it'd be worthwhile, your time where you're looking to invest into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look into it.
Yeah. So again, and this is where we're going to kind of go over where I feel that this fund can fit in with your current investment strategy. And again, where we feel it will track best and everything there. Now, again, your foundational investments, this doesn't fit in there, at least not right now.
No.
We want to see more of a track record from this and everything. So again, this is not for your Roth IRA. This is not for your 401k. Those are your foundational investments. That's what you want, where your main structure set up. Now, if you're following our other investment tracks of what we're doing, showing the different strategies, this kind of falls into that blend strategy, the strategy 6 that we're doing with that, where we have a little bit already going into your S&P 500 fund, your dividend fund, a little bit into your Magnificent 7, a little bit into crypto. And this falls into that crypto category because, again, it is a gamble. Yeah. Do I think there's high risk? Yes. Do I think there's also potential high reward? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So again, that kind of 10 or 20% that you're using for the crypto aspect, maybe cut that in half and put the other half of that into this fund and see what happens from there.
No, exactly. And that's important. Don't just take all of your investment money and put it into this thinking, hey, this is brand new. They just came out with this. This hasn't been to the consumers popular. Like, it hasn't been available to us ever before, because like you said before, you have to be a high investor to be able to get these options. But now that it's presented to us, a lot of people will see like, oh, hey, cool. Now I can get it on the ground floor of a lot of things. But like you just said, high risk. You could lose everything because a lot of these companies do just go completely under. Yeah. And so, like you said, take maybe 10% of your crypto and just blend it in and just see how it does and pick the companies, do your research and things like that is what we feel is a better option and a smarter option than just taking all of those investments. Like if you're taking money out of your Roth, or if you're not investing in your Roth IRA or 401k and fully vesting that, but changing it back, it's maybe not the best decision.
No, and again, like as we mentioned before, even for the normally accredited investors had to have a certain income requirement, but also a certain percentage to invest in. Again, we were talking 100,000 of their million. Again, that's a 10% of it. With the idea that all shrinks out and is gone, they're still okay because they still got $900,000.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So again, that's where you need to look at it from yourself. Even if you only have $1,000 to invest and everything, then only do $100 of it and everything into this and see what happens. So again, we're looking at the perspective of that, because if you lose that $100, you still got $900. You didn't lose everything. Now again, if that $100 skyrockets, fantastic,
awesome, then you got the gain. But what also is important with this as well, that if you don't understand what you're investing in and what you're owning, probably don't own it.
Yeah. That's something that check into these companies and everything. We mentioned some of them. Robinhood has on their site and everything, the whole list of theirs. And again, they're not a sponsor of this, so we're not right. They're not helping us out in this process. But I do think it was something that's really awesome that I saw that they brought to the table, and it's something to me that I think is really, shattering the barriers down, because I do think it's important that we shouldn't have this barrier of what was for the only for the accredited investors before. I think all these investment tools should be available to the masses, because again, it's up to us to make our own educated decisions on what it is that we're investing into, but we shouldn't have a barrier that says we're not allowed to invest into it now and everything. That to me is, I think, one of the biggest benefits of what Robin is doing. Do I think this fund's the one that they'll be on answer? Probably not. They're talking about you creating other funds, also be invested in other companies and everything. We'll see what they do from that. But the fact that they're doing this, to me, is huge.
Yeah, no, exactly. And this is something that is brand new as well that Robinhood has started doing. So stay tuned. We're going to keep tracking this as well. We want you to also look at the last investment videos that we've done, or any of our videos as well. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We want to start building up this community as well. We really want to be there for ourselves and build ourselves up, but also you guys as well. We want to hear from you. We want to hear the good, the bad, the ugly every single time.
Yeah, and again, when you're looking into these, I know very little about Databricks and everything. If you know something about these companies, you think there's great opportunity there, put in there. Or if you know something bad about them, put in there like, hey, stay away. That that company's not something I want to invest in because they did X, Y, Z, or I know Joe Schmo that works for the company and he's a terrible person. I wouldn't want to invest in that. Help us know about this stuff and everything, because if we prevent save people from it. Or if you think it's a great opportunity, like, hey, I know Joe Schmo that works there and he's fantastic. This is potentially a great opportunity and everything there. This could be something fun, but again, do it with only the money that you can afford to potentially lose, because just like with crypto, there is potential to lose it all. Because again, as we always like to say, remember, invest the boring way
so your kids can live the bold way.
Yeah. So until next time, take care.